finalist. He's most passionate about his work with his foundation, the Tebow Foundation, whose mission is to bring faith, hope, and love to those needing a brighter day in their darkest hour of need. He is married to his wife, Demi. He's a speaker. She's a speaker, influencer, entrepreneur, and Miss Universe 2017. They live in Jacksonville, Florida with their 3 dogs, Chuck, Kobe, and Paris. He's a 2-time national champion, Heisman Trophy winner, first-round NFL draft pick, and a former professional baseball player. He's one of the premier leaders of the world today. 8%, help me welcome to the stage, with a ton of energy, from Jacksonville, Florida to Dallas, Texas, the Tebow. Hey, hit him again! Tebow's in the house!
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it. Oh my goodness, thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here. Cody, Lauren, thank you so much for having me. We're so excited to be here. I love it. I've been so excited hearing so much about 8% Nation, right? Because you that are in this room, you're already beating most of the odds. But honestly, it's not about being the 8%. I really think the challenge is about being your 1%. Not the 1%, because ultimately not everybody gets a chance to be the best. But every single one of you get the chance to be your best. Every single one of you. Isn't that the challenge? Isn't that the mission? Isn't that the goal with everything that you have to ultimately be your best? And maybe your best will be the best, but ultimately, if you are at your best, then why would you ever have to live with regret? Because there's nothing more you could have ever done. I hope when you leave 8% Nation, I hope you leave encouraged. I really do. I love encouragement. I think it's a great word. It means to give someone support, confidence, or hope. I hope that you leave here with support, with confidence, and with hope. But if I was to choose another word, I would choose inspire. Because you see what inspire means is it means to fill someone with the urge to do something. And there are a lot of people in life that feel something, but for some reason don't do something. You see, an encouragement is a great thing. I love it. I believe in it. I want to be encouraged too. But man, if all you do is you just are more confident, have more hope, but all you do is just feel it and it doesn't spur you to actually do something, then honestly, it was just a waste of your time. But it can do something in you to move you to where you're inspired to actually be filled with something, to do something. Now that's worthwhile. And you know what? There's going to be so many people, and there has been so many people, and you might have been one of these people that you felt something, but for some reason, dang, I just didn't do anything. And there's been times in my life where I felt something. I've been encouraged. Maybe I had a little bit more hope, support, and I felt something, but something stopped me from actually doing something. March 28, 1990, the Chicago Bulls were playing the Cleveland Cavaliers, and Michael Jordan was on an absolute tear. He was playing on one of his greatest hot streaks in his life, and right from the tip-off, Michael Jordan goes off. This night, Michael Jordan scores the most points in any game he ever played in his entire career. High school, college, or pro. Michael Jordan scores 69 points. One of the Cavs players says afterwards about Michael Jordan, it's like he was bloodthirsty. No matter what we did, we could not stop Michael Jordan. Put our best player on him, couldn't stop him. Double team him, couldn't stop him. Triangle and 2, couldn't stop him. And then at the end of the game, in clutch time, in crunch time, Michael Jordan took over like he always did because he was at his best when it mattered most. And the game went into overtime, and of course, Michael Jordan takes the last couple of shots and leads the Bulls to a 117-113 overtime victory. The Bulls got into foul trouble late in the game, so they had to play a lot of players off of their bench. One of those players that had to play 17 minutes that night was someone named Stacey King. How many of you guys have ever heard of Stacey King? Flat out lying. No chance. I believe you heard of Michael Jordan. Not that many people know who Stacey King is. But Stacey King had to play 17 minutes. And could you imagine in a game where you're competing to hopefully get to the playoffs and you come off the bench and you don't usually get to play, but now you're playing with the greatest player of all time. I don't care what you want to say, like Jordan is the greatest of all time. But could you imagine, right? You're on the bench. Michael Jordan is unstoppable. And they're like, hey, Cody, you're up. Oh, dang. You're like, shoot. Stretch out a little bit. All right, here we go. So Stacey comes into the game, and he's in the middle of the action. And this is a heated game. And last time they played, they got in some fights, or we'll say scuffles. And so it's an intense game. And boom, Stacey gets the ball, and he pulls up for it. Misses it. Another time in clutch time, he gets a ball, pulls up, shoots, misses it. You got to be thinking, oh my goodness, I'm playing with the greatest player of all time, maybe on his greatest night, and I might be letting him down. So late in the game, he gets another shot, pulls up, misses it. Then one more, late in the game, pulls up, misses it. Now I'm 0 for 4. I'm playing with the greatest player of all time. But right after Stacey misses his fourth shot, he gets fouled. So he goes to the free throw line. You can almost imagine the pressure in his mind. I'm stepping up to the free throw line, and the crowd is chanting a lot of things that I wouldn't repeat, especially here. And he's like, okay, go through my routine. Wipe off the sweat. Take a deep breath. Ref tosses in the ball. But you know that thought's going through his head of, you're playing with the greatest player of all time, and you're 0 for 4, and you're letting your team down. I gotta block it out, I gotta block it out. All right, dribble. Shoots. Misses it. Oh, dang. Jordan walks over there, daps him up real quick, probably thinking, well, I'll get ready to get the rebound because you're probably gonna miss. Steps back up to the free throw line, ref tosses in the ball. All right, block out the noise, here we go. Dribble. Shoots. Makes it. Oh, you can just imagine the relief for Stacey, right? He's like, yes, I actually did something. I sort of helped my team. And last couple of seconds goes by. Jordan gets the ball, makes a couple of shots. Like I said, they win 117-113. And all the media run onto the court because they want to be the ones to get the first interview with Michael Jordan after his best game. And one of the best games in NBA history. But all the security stand around him and escort him a lot like they do with Cody. And so Jordan goes right into the locker room, and they're all like disappointed, like, dang, man, we want to get the interview. But like, okay, we'll go over to the teammates. And so they go over to a lot of the more well-known teammates. But then some of the media walk over to Stacey and they say, Stacey, gosh, how unbelievable was tonight? How incredible was tonight? Can you just describe tonight? How special was tonight? Obviously referring to Michael Jordan. And Stacey just thinks for a moment. And he said, yeah, tonight was incredibly special. I will remember tonight for the rest of my life as the night that me and Michael Jordan combined for 70 points. You know what, you might be here right now and you might be super successful. You might be one of the owners of the company that's sitting a little bit more up front. You might be someone that right now you feel like Stacey King. I don't know why you cheer for that. But wherever you are, wherever you're seated, whatever your background is, I hope that you walk away encouraged. I hope that you walk away inspired. And I hope you also don't walk away just comparing yourself with somebody else. Because one of the first ways to fail is when you compare yourself against everybody else. Do you know 12% of our daily thoughts are spent in some form of comparison? Do you know if 12% of your daily thoughts are spent in comparison, then your chance of being 1%, your 1%, is 0. How could you be your best if you spend your time watching what other people are doing with envy, with jealousy, with bitterness? Why? Because you're not focused, intentional on being your best. So you know what? Stacey King could have just watched Michael Jordan, said, man, I wish I was him. Or he could have watched Michael Jordan and said, look, I can bring all those things to my game and get better and better and better and better and better. And now I'm not spending my 12% in some form of comparison. I'm spending all of it improving, getting better. You know, I love the theme of this conference, and it's how to make an impact in your world. How do you make an impact in your world? I was thinking about it the last couple of days, and I was honestly thinking about it today when we got in and we were in the hotel room, and there's a few things that wouldn't leave my brain. Thinking about all the different times that I've had the opportunity to be around influential people. The opportunities I've had to be around people that have truly left a mark, left a legacy, left an impact in their sphere, in their world. And every single one that I could think of, it started because they had a great vision. It started because the vision wasn't just about them, but the vision also wasn't just about their company, but it also included a vision for the people that worked with them. You see, is your vision just about how you can be successful? How your company can be successful? Which are both important, but is also how your people can be successful. I think vision is important because vision is almost like your headlights. And imagine if you're driving and it's a dark night and you can't see, you need headlights. You need to know where to go, and you also need to be able to let other people know this is the road, and they need to also believe you. You know, sometimes vision is a very scary thing. I remember maybe about 8 or 9 years ago now, the president of our foundation at the time came to me before an event on the West Coast, and he said, hey, for our 5-year anniversary of our foundation, since we love people with special needs and we serve them all over the world, what do you think if we did a prom night event? We knew 2 churches that held something called Jesus Proms, and they really celebrated these kids. And he said, what if for our 5-year anniversary, what if we had this awesome party where we were able to celebrate them and do something really special? And I said, man, I love it. Let's do it. He said, okay, awesome. Where do you want to do it? Do you want to do it in Florida? Do you want to do it in New York, Texas, California? Do you want to do it in a different country? Where would you like to do it? And I said, I think I want to do it everywhere. He's like, no, what are you talking about? Honestly, I think we need to do it everywhere. I think every city, every state, every country needs to celebrate their most forgotten. And he didn't really cheer or clap. He was like, what? No. And so it was just this vision, this hope, this dream, this thought. And so we go back and we get our leadership team together and our board together, and we're talking about it. But this conviction leads to this vision of maybe we could do this. And so we sat down and we came up with a 42-page manual and a bunch of different things of how we could do that. And we were praying like crazy for it. And we're like, you know, we got to, from scratch, from coming up with a name to coming up with every single logistical thing for it. And we're like, oh man, we just really hope this will work. And the first year we had 44 locations in 26 states and 3 countries. And we were like, yes. But little did we know it was so small compared to where God would take it. And the next year was 201 locations. The next year, 375. And you know, now over 40 countries and 700 locations with 250,000 people that volunteer in it. And it's something that's so exciting. so we're still honestly really far from our goal. We're really far from the vision of trying to get to every country. But it's exciting to think about where we started and how far we've come. But you see, when you have a vision, that vision isn't just about you. And it's not just for you. If it is, why would other people buy into your vision? See, part of what's important about a vision is you need to show people where they are, where they can be, and how you know how to get them from where they are to where they can be. And what happens if they buy into you? What happens if they invest in you? What happens if they trust you? Can they actually believe the picture that you paint? Do they believe the vision that you paint? And what if they actually say yes? What if they actually say yes? What's the difference that happens in their life? What is the real difference? When I was an 8th grader, about to be a 9th grader, I had the opportunity to play on the varsity football team, and I had looked forward to it my entire life. And I was so excited for it. And one of my brothers was going to be a senior, and I was so excited. And before the season started, when I'm finishing my 8th grade year, about to start my freshman year, I'm so excited. And our football team goes to something called the Burly Man Retreat. I mean, can you be more meathead? I think not. But we go to this Burly Man Retreat, and you compete against all these other teams and all these Burly Man things, chopping wood and tug of war and just all these different things. And it was so much fun to be a part of, because I had looked forward to this my whole life. I get to be on the varsity team, and they're counting on me, and we're doing all of these different competitions. And then the last night, there's this huge arena similar to this. And they said, okay, we want everybody to listen up. One person from every team. Your team selects him. You come up here, and there's a curling bar with 10 pounds on each side. And one of you is going to do the most and represent your team. And each team picked that person, and you come up here and stand in line in front of everybody. You're going to do this curling contest. And I was an 8th grader, about to be a 9th grader, and they're all looking around who they're going to pick, and then they turn and they pick me. And I was like, what? No, pick a senior. I'm an 8th grader. You pick someone else. No, I don't want that pressure. But a team picked me, and so I was like, oh no. But as a competitor, I literally walked to the back of the room because, listen, if you want to know what you have to beat, you literally go to the back, so you're the last one to go. And so I literally start walking to the side so I can be the very last one to go, except there was another guy who was a defensive tackle at a 6A high school standing at the back of the room folding his arms like this. And I knew him, and I knew that he was bigger and he was stronger, and it wasn't even close. And I was like, oh shoot, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this guy that's standing behind me is better than me. He's better than me. There's no doubt about it. I know it. Most people know it. And so as a competitor, you're so disappointed. I know this guy's stronger than me. I know he's better than me. And so as everyone starts to go, I know what they've done. I'm like, I can beat all these guys. But I know the guy behind me is better than me. And so I get up there and I get to where they say go, and I pick up the bar, and it's literally as many times from your thighs to your shoulder as possible. Really no rules, it's just literally as many ways as you can get up as possible. And so I start going, and I think the leader at the time was like 60 or 70 reps or something, and so I'm able to surpass that, and I get to 100, and I get to 200, and I see my team and my teammates who I look up to and I've longed to be a part of, and I love so much. And I see my brother cheering, who I want to make him proud. I want him to be proud that I'm his younger brother. I want them to be proud that they picked me. I want my team to be proud that I'm representing them. And I'm filled with so much, not just encouragement, but inspiration. I'm filled with the urge, like I have to do whatever I can. You see, I wasn't as gifted at that time as the guy behind me. But the question wasn't, was I more gifted? The question, honestly, was I more willing? And so I did as many as I could. Past 200, past 250, I got to 300, got to 305, got to 310, and I got to 315. And I getting a full upper body cramp, and I literally, the doctors come in, and I actually did a lot of damage to both my arms. And they literally took me off to go see all the nurses and the doctors, and I actually did a lot of damage to my arm, and maybe that's why my throwing motion was so weird. I don't know. Oh, that's funny? Yeah, let's talk about your weaknesses, all right? And I was so inspired because what I was representing meant so much to me that it was worth damage, it was worth tears, it was worth pain, it was worth hurting, because what I was representing wasn't just myself. It wasn't a stupid burly man retreat where I'm doing curls, because to me, it had nothing to do with the action. It had everything to do with the representation. Who was really standing up there? Not just me. It was my teammates. It was my school. It was the coaches. It was my brother. It was my family. What was I representing? There's no chance if I'm up there representing myself, I even come close to that number. No chance. But I was filled with an urge to do something, and it was to do more. And you see, the biggest question was I willing to endure more pain than the next guy? So I wasn't even there. They had taken me, and they were giving me IVs and everything else, so I'm gone. And my teammates tell me the story, so the next guy comes up, grabs the bar, he does enough to be second, he sets it down, he puts his foot over the bar, and he goes, it ain't worth it. And he walks off the stage. And you know what? To him it wasn't. To me it was. But what do you think his team thought that year in the fourth quarter? Oh, is it also not going to be worth it? What do you think his team, like, dang man, I'm so proud that I'm your teammate. It ain't worth it. I would ask you a question. How willing are you, and how worth it is it to you? Everybody talks about the will to win, and I can't stand the phrase. Everybody wants to win. That should never be your question. The question is, what are you willing to do? How hard are you willing to embrace the grind? How hard are you willing to embrace the suck? That's the question. Not do you want to win? Everybody's going to say yes. But what's going to motivate you to get it done? And all of us have different whys that are going to motivate us. But the question is yours big enough to be willing to say, when it gets hard, when I have to endure, I'm going to be willing. See, I think you have to have a vision. I think you have to be willing. Then I think you have to have non-negotiables. You have to have guardrails. To really make an impact, you have to have guardrails, because if not, it's so easy to have mission drift. Where you drift away from what you actually set out to do. You see, for us, for me and my life, and me and my wife, and for our nonprofit, we have 5 non-negotiables that are for us our guardrails, right? And I think non-negotiables are so important. What are the things that you are not willing to negotiate on? Because also when you make them, then your team's going to understand who you are. Not just what you do, not just where you're going, that's your vision, but who you are. Which ultimately, when people buy into you, man, if all they buy into is your vision, if all they buy into is your what, you're leaving them somewhat empty. Because they need to buy into who you are. For us, our number one non-negotiable is that we're believers. We're believers in a big God. We're believers in a son, Jesus. We're believers in what he did on the cross. We're believers that accounted for us. We're believers that we're here for a reason. We're believers that we can create change. We're believers that believing in people also is a powerful thing. Seeing something in people that maybe they can't see in themselves, but you see it and you believe in it is a powerful thing. A couple years ago, I got to hear the story of a young man that was a senior in high school, and in his words, he was literally failing at everything. He was halfway to go in his senior year, and he was failing at literally every single one of his classes. And he came from a really tough upbringing where his parents weren't supportive. And he believed it was time that I need to quit. I need to end school, but also I think I probably need to end life. But he had one teacher for 3.5 years. She would always come up to him. And she would say, "Hey, it's so good to see you. What can I do for you? I just want you to know I'm here if you need anything. I believe in you. I think you're great. I believe in you. What can I do for you? How can I help you? Is there anything that you need?" Over and over and over again. So he decided, you know what? Before I quit school and before I quit at life, I'm just going to go tell her to let her know. And so he goes up to her one day after school and he lets her know, and she says, "Actually, you're not going to quit because of everything I've done for you for the last 3.5 years. And not only are you not going to quit, but in a couple of weeks on Saturday morning, you're going to get up and you're going to go take the SAT test." He said, "Why would I go take the SAT test? I'll fail it." She said, "You can't fail." And he said, "Well, if anyone could, it would be me." She said, "No, you're not going to quit. And for me, for everything I've done for you, would you please, just for me, just go take the SAT test?" And he said, "Yeah, all right, for you. But then I'm done. But I'll go take the SAT test because everything you've done for me, because you've believed in me, you supported me, I'll go take it." A couple of Saturday mornings go by. He wakes up, goes to the SAT test, feels terrible about it. It's like, dang, I just sucked at this thing, and leaves. And a couple weeks later, he gets a letter in the mail from that county, and it was the grade that he had on the SAT. And it said, out of 1,600, which that's what it was when he took it, out of 1,600, you scored a 1480. And he thought, oh my gosh, I scored a 1480 out of 1,600. This is crazy. And so he goes to his parents, "Look, I scored a 1480 out of 1,600. And his parents were never supportive of him. And they go, "Literally, how did you cheat?" And so he was like, whatever. And he runs out of the house and he knew where his teacher was, and he runs directly to where she was. And he said, "Look, I got a 1480 out of 1,600. She starts weeping. He starts weeping. They're hugging. And she's saying over and over and over again, I believe in you. I believe in you. I believe in you. You are so special. You can accomplish things." And he's like, "Do you really believe it? Do you really think that's possible?" She's like, "Yes." And so for the first time in his life, he doesn't think that he's a failure. He said, you really think I can accomplish something?" She said, "Yes." So they sit down right then and they come up with a game plan of how they could go from him failing literally every single one of his classes to maybe graduating with tutors and help and support in all of his classes. At the end of the year, he graduates. And because he has such a good SAT score, he gets into a pretty prestigious college. And at this point, he is so confident. He's so inspired. He's like, "Dude, I can accomplish things. I'm going to start a business." So he starts a business early on in his college years, and he's like, "You know what? I'm going to start another one." So he starts a second business. And then he graduates college, and 10 years after he graduates college, he wins one of the most prestigious award for entrepreneurs, Entrepreneur of the Year Award. 10 years after he graduated from university. Just a couple of weeks after he wins that award, he's sitting in his home with his wife and his kids, and he gets a letter in the mail from the county in which he grew up in. And he starts to read, and it tells him that every year they go back and they audit so that they make sure that every single score is accurate and they don't make any mistakes. And then it goes on to say, "We're so sorry. On your year, with your test, we made a mistake. You didn't actually score a 1480. You actually scored a 740. And he starts to laugh because the moment that changed his life was a lie. It wasn't real. It was because somebody else made a mistake. But what mattered in that moment is that he believed it. And for the first time in his life, he believed in himself. Belief is a powerful thing. Would anybody say, because of you, because of your actions, that they believe more in themselves? I honestly think you should ask yourself that. Would anybody say that, man, I believe I can accomplish more because of you, because of you. Man, I believe I can do more. I believe I am more. You know, one of the greatest compliments that I feel like I ever got, he didn't even mean it that way, is we were getting ready to play a big game, and one of my teammates came up to me before the game, and he said, hey, something special is going to happen, right? And I said, dude, what are you talking about? He said, you know it, man. Just tell me, you know something special is going to happen. And I was like, dude, I have no idea. Like, what are you talking about? I have no idea. He said, yes, you do. And I said, dude, I have no idea. And he walked away, and it was so encouraging because he believed that I believed something special was going to happen. He didn't mean it as a compliment, but I took it that way. That he would come up to me before a huge game in front of the entire country, and he would think that I was going to tell him what's special going to happen tonight. I had no idea. I was just as terrified. Man, belief is a really powerful thing. Our second non-negotiable is that everyone's an image bearer. You see, why this matters so much is because people need to understand who you are and how you value people. And that people matter, and they're not just an opportunity, a transaction, that it's actually a relationship based on worth, value, and importance. You see, when we say everyone's an image bearer, it's because we want to serve God, not play God. And there's a lot of people that want to play God and pick and choose who matters and who doesn't. But when we say everyone's an image bearer, it's because that means everyone is equal, everyone is valuable, everyone is important. Would people say that you value people that much? Everyone is an image bearer. Number 3 for us is that we're on a rescue mission. You see, when people are hurting, we want to be there for them. When people are hurting, we want to go to their side. And you know what? Why we say rescue mission is because it puts a timeline on it. When's the last time you had a rescue mission that was in a year, 2 years, 5 years? No. When you say rescue, it's a timeline. It means there's a sense of urgency. Is there a sense of urgency when your team is hurting? Is there a sense of urgency when people that you know are hurting? Does it matter enough? Is there a sense of urgency? I was in New York City, and I was visiting I had to do some shows, and I was dating my wife. And I was so busy, but I was so looking forward to seeing her. And I finally finished all this stuff, and we met at one of her favorite restaurants in New York City. And I knew from literally our first date that I wanted to marry her. And I'm not sure that she knew that, but I knew that. And so we're on this date, and I knew that one day I was going to propose to her. And I was so excited, but I was so busy in the trip leading up, and I couldn't necessarily plan anything special. So I'm literally working under the table and texting my agent, hey, any chance that you could get us tickets to go see Hamilton? And it's a Broadway play that I love, and that I love being, I love the lyrics, and I would have them on my phone and listen to them all the time. And so I'm texting him under the table, and he responds, boom, I got the tickets. And I was like, oh, baby, I've missed you so much, and I've been planning this for a long time, but I got his tickets to go see Hamilton. And so we finish dinner and we walk across the street and we go see Hamilton, and I had already seen it twice in person. I had listened to the soundtrack many times. And I loved the story of Alexander Hamilton, one of our founding fathers, and I'd seen it multiple times, listened to it a bunch of times, but sometimes when you watch something again, it hits you in a new way. And as I'm watching it, they're talking about Alexander Hamilton, and I realized something for the first time in a song called Nonstop, because they're talking about Alexander Hamilton and him, John Jay, and James Madison, their goal to write the Federalist Papers to defend the U.S. Constitution. And in this song called Nonstop, they're talking about how Alexander Hamilton lived with such a sense of urgency for people. That he lived with such a sense of urgency for what he was called to. And I was thinking in that moment, would anybody ever say this about me in my life with what I was called to do? You see, they set out to write the Federalist Papers, and I believe John Jay wrote 5, James Madison wrote 29, and Alexander Hamilton wrote 51. And so this song goes, how do you write like you're running out of time? Write day and night like you're running out of time. Every day you write like you're running out of time. How do you write like you needed to survive? Every day you write like you're running out of time. And I thought, man, would anybody ever say that about me and my life and what I'm called to? That I cared so much about it. That I had such a sense of urgency that I lived like I was running out of time. The fourth non-negotiable is that there's power when we come together. You know, so many times I believe that people don't come together is because the credit comes before the mission. But you know what? When you really believe in success and significance, I believe that the mission comes before the credit. And you really have a vision that is for your company and for people, and that you're really inspired to believe in them, and that they're an image bearer, and that you really want to help them, then you're going to be willing to come together. You know, it's one thing that I love about things like this is that every single person gets to get better from one another. Number 5 is that you can never forget. Don't forget. You know, 22 times Moses reminded the Israelites, don't forget or remember, because they just got rescued out of Egypt and instantly they forgot. How many times does something good happen in our life and we forget? You see what happens when you remember when you were inspired, when you remember the good things that God has done for you, when you remember your blessings, when you remember all your opportunities, what happens is that you're grateful. And you see, when you're grateful, you're also a different person. Miami just did a study on one of the test groups that every day they wrote down one thing they were grateful for. And you think, oh, that's not a lot, right? Is that a big deal? Every day you write down one thing you're grateful for. Well, you know what happens at the end of 10 weeks? There was a biochemical change in their bodies, in their life, for the better. What? By writing down one thing you're grateful for? That's crazy. That's crazy. And you know also why belief matters so much? Is because it's also estimated that adds 4.4 years to your life. That's not based on what I have to say. That's based on Harvard, Brown, Boston, and the University of California. Is that optimism, belief, adds 4.4 years to your life. So you say, man, why is this so important? Well, when you believe in people, you're grateful for your opportunities. You're not just looking to be successful, you're looking to be significant. And you know, for me, once you have a vision, which is where you're going, once you have your non-negotiables, which is your guardrails, then you have your why, which is your fuel. Why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? Why does it matter so much? Why does it really matter? See, for me, when your why is meaningful enough, you're willing to embrace when it gets really hard. You're willing to do things that are really difficult. You know, I love the word passion. Hopefully in my life, I'm someone that can live out the things I've been called to with passion. But it's not easy. You see, we could watch a highlight video and every single one of us could get excited, could get motivated or hyped. And you know what? We put that in the same category as passion. And it shouldn't be, because it's not. I could be playing a game and get hit by a 300-pound lineman and I'm no longer excited, motivated, or hyped. But I can still be passionate. Why? Because they don't mean the same thing. Passion actually comes from a 12th century Latin word that actually means to suffer. Where did they get it? From the passion of the Christ. Because he cared so much for people, he was willing to suffer for. So if you say you're actually passionate about what you're doing, or you're passionate about people, just know what you're saying. It means that you care so much for them that you're willing to suffer for them. Or just say you're excited. Because it's very different. And you see, what's also cool is that they came up with the word compassion from passion. Because compassion's not pity, and it's not empathy. You see, if passion is you care so much for something that you're willing to suffer for, compassion is you care so much for someone that you're willing to suffer with. You see, when you want to make an impact on your world, you're going to care so much for people that you're willing to suffer with them. When you look at great leaders, when you look at great influencers, when you look at great people of impact, it's not just been at the mountaintop, it's also because they've been willing to go in the valley with people that are hurting. So with your team members, are you only there to celebrate the deals and the success? Or are you there because you're willing to suffer with them when it gets really, really, really hard? Because you have passion for your occupation, but you really have compassion for your people, for your team. Because if not, why would someone follow / or stay with you? But man, when they know that you're not just passionate about what you're doing, but you're also willing to be compassionate for them, their belief in you goes to another level. Which one do you think they're going to be? When they pick up the curling bar, which one do you think they're going to be? The one that's willing to tear biceps, or the one that's going to be like, oh, it doesn't really matter so much? Because ultimately, you remember what's really important. When I was a sophomore at the University of Florida, I was fortunate to be a finalist for the Heisman Trophy, and it was so surreal. All of a sudden, 12 Saturdays goes by, and you're literally sitting in New York City, and it's surreal. And there's the 4 of us, and we're finalists, and it gets near the end of the show, and during a commercial not timeout, it's not a game, commercial break, one of the Heisman trustees walks out, and he puts his hand over the mic, and he looks at the 4 of us, and he says, hey guys, just so you know, I want you to know that one of you, just a couple of minutes, for the rest of your life, you will be introduced and known as Heisman Trophy winner. It's like I was already nervous, and now I'm just ready to puke. And so Chris Fowler comes back out, and they build up all the drama, and a few minutes later, they announce me as a winner. It's surreal, and you walk up on stage, and you're hugging all of these former winners that you looked up to for so long, and it's such a cool opportunity, right? And And then you walk off stage and you're at a press conference and you're meeting with all the Heisman Trophy trusts, and there's all these invitations and opportunities for you to do so many things. Well, one of the cool things was after the season, I got to fly to Thailand to speak to one of the biggest missionary organizations in the world was coming together to have a conference. And so I fly to Thailand, and the first couple of days were awesome. But then a little bit later in the trip, one of the missionaries goes, "Hey, Timmy, do you want to hop in the Jeep? We're going to do something pretty cool." And it's like, how do you say no? Of course you're going to say yes. We're like, of course. So I hop in the Jeep and we start driving, and I was like, "Hey, how long is this?" And he was like, "Oh, it's just a little ways up there. By the way, i.e., that's missionary talk for buckle up because it's going to be a while." And so we were driving through all of these fields, and we pull into these shanties, which are just little tin sheds, and we drive through all of them, which was quite a while, and we pull right through these shanties into this huge, massive field. Massive field, and there was a line of people that were all facing the other direction. And it was literally about as far as my eyes could see. And I stopped the Jeep and we get out, and I go, what are we doing here? What's going on? The missionary says, "Hey, this is a feeding center where every now and then we gather up as much food as possible, and we invite all the local villages and cities to come here if they don't have a place to get food." And I said, "Man, that's awesome. I gotta ask though, man, there's so many people. I literally barely can see from where the line starts to where the line ends. Do you really think you have enough food to feed all these people?" He said, "Honestly, probably not." And I said, "Dang, well, is there anything that we can do to go get some more food?" And he kind of took offense to that. So he's like, "You don't think we're trying?" And I said, "Sorry, well, what do you want us to do?" And he said, "We want you to get with these interpreters right here and start sharing and encouraging people from the back of the line to the front." I said, "Okay." And so we started at the back of the line, and we're working our way forward, and we had been there for a long time. And I'm standing there talking to someone, and one of the locals comes sprinting up to us and grabs me by my chest and pulls me. And the pastors beside me try to grab him because they thought he was attacking me, but I knew he just really, really wanted my attention. I said, "It's okay, it's okay." And he starts trying to tell me something in broken English. And you guys need to understand, I'm from the South. I understand broken English. But I had no idea what this dude was saying. And so he grabs me by his shirt again, and he points over here, and I was like, "Sir, I'm so sorry, I don't understand what you're saying." And I said, would you please tell the interpreter?" And so the interpreter says that to him, and you say, no. And he would only tell the interpreter that he would only tell me in my native tongue so that he would honor me. And I was like, "Well, thank you, sir, but I just can't understand it, so would you please tell him?" And he would say, no. And so he grabbed me again by the shirt, and he pulls me, and he points. And I was like, "Look, sir, thank you, but I have no idea. You're literally just pointing at a mass of humanity, a group of people. I'm so sorry, sir. What are you pointing at?" And he grabs me by the shirt, and he pulls me over, and he points. "Sir, I have no idea." And he does it again, pulls me, and he points. And by this time, some of the people had moved. And you see, on the side of this feeding center was a massive ditch that was full of mud and also filth and sewage and trash. And there was a little boy that was squatting in it, about 8, 9, 10, 11 years of age. It was hard to tell because he was so malnourished that you look at his face and you could see all the bones in his face. You look at his throat and you could see all the bones in his throat. And his arms, and you could see all the bones. And he had shorts and a t-shirt, but his shorts were so tattered that it barely looked like he was wearing shorts. And he had a shirt on that was also ripped and torn and tattered, but you could still make out what that shirt represented. You see, that boy in the middle of the jungle in Thailand was squatting in that ditch, wearing an orange and blue number 15 Florida Gator Tim Tebow jersey. And I just remember staring at that boy at a time when everybody said, "Hey, for the rest of your life, you're going to be introduced as Heisman Trophy winner. When they would say, hey, this year you were so successful. And then I'm standing there in Thailand and I'm looking at this boy and I'm reminded what really is success. And I'm looking at this boy that's wearing this jersey that has no idea what football is, has no idea what that number represents, has no idea about the Florida Gators, and definitely has no idea about some award called the Heisman Trophy. But I look at that boy and I know that he is starving for food, but he's also starving for hope. And I remember looking at him and just feeling like God was pressing it on my heart. You think that I just put you here for a game? What is that game going to do for that boy? I put you here for that boy. What is that jersey going to do for that boy? Nothing, but you can. You know, it's funny to even think about. Someone probably bought that jersey and they're like, dang, Tebow's awesome, we love him. And then I threw a pick and he was like, he sucks. And then they were like, dude, get rid of the jersey, send it to Salvation's Army, Samaritan's Purse, get it out. They probably sent it overseas and it went from orphan to orphan to orphan, passed down to him. And he was like, I don't have another shirt, so I'll put on whatever this thing is. And he's wearing that because he has nothing else. He doesn't have another pair of shorts. He doesn't have another shirt. He doesn't have shoes. And what we think is so important. What we think is success is everything. And it is awesome. And I'm not telling you, don't be successful. I want you to be successful. I want to be successful. There's never been a day in my life I woke up and I played a game and I was like, hey, today I want to lose. I want to be successful. But man, when I'm looking at that boy and I'm reminded, you know, there's one thing that is so much more important than success. And that's significance. And I remember walking over to that boy with tears coming down the side of my face. He's standing up looking at me, probably like, why is this dude standing over me? I couldn't help it. I gave him a hug. He's probably like, why is this white dude touching me? And I was so grateful that day that I got to meet that boy, and ultimately, I believe that he found food and hope that day. But I was reminded ultimately of what really matters. See, if you get everything that you're searching for, what do you have? Is it really enough? Is what you're going for, is what you're training for, is what you're competing for, is what you're lifting for? If you get it, what do you really have? Because ultimately, man, if it's just success, man, I've been around a lot of people, a lot of friends have called me late at night. We've had conversations and they've had everything that the world says mattered. And they thought, man, I thought it was going to be so much more. And man, I hope that you're successful. You're already an 8%er. Maybe you're going to be a 1%er. And if you get there, but you didn't make anybody's life better, you didn't believe in anybody else, you didn't help them, you didn't have real compassion for them or compassion with them, you forgot everything that really mattered, and all you had was a bunch of stuff, what was it all for? George Dinkins, the founder of Publix, who was known for being so generous. He was known for hiring people with special needs at Publix, and that's literally one of the reasons my mom pretty much only shops there still to this day. But George Dinkins, who built Publix into so many stores and was so successful, on his deathbed, all these people wanted to interview him. And there was this one young man who over and over and over and over again asked, can I please interview? Can I please interview? Can I please interview? And so George and his team said, yeah, let this guy come in. So this young man interviews George Jenkins a lot about success. and about finances and about money and prestige. And George answers all of these questions. And he says, Mr. Jenkins, I just gotta tell you, thank you so much for letting me interview. It means so much to me. It really does. Mr. Jenkins, thank you for the time. I just have one more question. Mr. Jenkins, if you were so successful, you made so much money. Mr. Jenkins, if you wouldn't have given away so much, how much would you be worth? George Jenkins thinks for a moment, and he looks back at this young man, and he says, son, probably nothing. Because there's a big difference between success and significance. And I hope that every single one of you know that you can have them both. But if all you have is success, then maybe one day you're going to be thinking, I thought it was more. But if you have success and significance, now you're taking your platforms, your opportunity, everything that God has given you, and you're taking that success and you're turning it into significance, because you were reminded and you remember that it's not just about you, that it's also about other people. And your job isn't just to accumulate things and be successful, be prestigious, and have a lot of stuff, because you can't take it with you. But you also know there's a difference between inheritance and legacy.